and really not being able to process why are these people so angry with me? Why are they calling me this? Why wasn't I supposed to ride across the street anyway? Why? Nobody ever talked about that. I think that when I was growing up, Black folks just accepted some things. This is just the way it is. And like I said, even, with the exception of this really, really poignant thing that my mom said to me at 10, which really, again, is one of those things I will never forget. And it did change my perspective to some degree. And of course, she followed it up with other things. She put me in charm school and, other things like that to try to help me. But yes, I think that if we hadn't been so afraid to talk about that, Black folks were scared of white people.
Hello, my good people. Welcome back to Trending Pulse Worldwide. And if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss an episode. Now, you just had a woman who lived through the 1960s explaining why Black people felt intimidated back then. And honestly speaking, it wasn't just a feeling. There was real reasons behind that fear. So we are going to continue hearing from her, and then we'll also listen to other more videos. A young Black girl who faced racism in school, and a man who had a terrifying experience just trying to get home. And then I'll be back and we can have this full conversation. So let's get into the videos.
I mean, I grew up afraid of white people. I grew up feeling intimidated by white folks. I grew up not feeling like I was as good as they were. And if you hear a tinge of anger in my voice, I'm still mad as hell about that, because I feel like maybe my ACT scores wouldn't have been as low as they were if I had felt like I had a chance or I was as good as they were. So yes, it should have been talked about. We should have been empowered, but it was the time. It was just the time. People were afraid.
I used to be a runner in high school and college. In my late 30s, I began to jog. And I was jogging near my house in Washington. I was an assistant attorney general of the United States, best friend of the attorney general of the United States. And I was jogging near my house. And a police came by. Fortunately, I had my Justice Department credentials in my hip pocket. Boy! I kept on jogging. Boy! I keep on jogging. Hey, you boy! Spotlight on me. Boy, you better stop! I figured I better stop. And so I stopped, and two white cops get out, slam me up against a wall, spread my legs, and then spray my legs hit me pretty hard between the legs, and it hurt very much. I kept saying, look in my back pocket, reach in my back pocket. Boy, you robbed a store. Boy, this, boy, that. They pulled out this thing, and it was a nice leather thing that said I was a Justice Department official. Oh, they melted. Of course, I called the police chief the minute I got home, and those guys were suspended and disciplined.
Next, let's hear from two young Black girls who are just trying to integrate into a Mississippi school in 1966. The way they describe what happened to them, it says a lot. Take a look.
What happened when you went to school today?
When he let them, the children went to their room, he took them to their room.
This is the principal.
And then he told us to go somewhere.
Where did he tell you to go?
Home.
Are you going to try to go back again to this white school?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Well, I like to go to school.
You're going to keep going back until you get in the white school?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to call a lawyer?
Yeah. I guess.
Is your mama going to call a lawyer?
I guess so.
Is your daddy going to call a lawyer?
I think he would.
Okay. Okay. What happened to you today?
When I went to school, this was my first day going to school. When I went, the principal told me not to come back anymore to his office. So we left out. He told all of us not to come back.
Why did he tell you not to come back?
'cause he didn't have no slip for us.
Did you make out a slip?
My mama gave my brother one. He took it over to the schoolhouse over here at the church and told, and then the folks took it over there at Legion Hall and they said they didn't have none for us.
After hearing all these stories, let's take a moment to reflect. The older woman talked about how black people in the 1960s felt intimidated by white people. But it wasn't just a feeling, it was the reality of the time. Black people had to navigate a world where racism wasn't just of personal prejudice. It was backed by laws, institutions, and everyday interactions. Then we heard from the two young girls who are just trying to go to school. Imagine being a child and facing hostility simply because of your race. Schools are supposed to be places of learning and growth. But for them, integration meant walking into an environment where they were seen as outsiders, where they had to prove they belonged. And finally, the man's story, it really exposes how deep racial bias runs. He was stopped, attacked, and accused of robbing a store. And despite him repeatedly saying, "Check my back pocket," the officers assumed the worst. When they finally did check, they found something unexpected, a badge identifying him as a Justice Department official. Think about that. A man working for the very system meant to uphold justice was still treated as a suspect. And what happened next? Imagine he had to call the police chief himself just to get any action taken. And even after all of that, the officers weren't fired. They were just suspended, not arrested. Just a temporary consequence, like they had only made a minor mistake. But let's be honest, this wasn't just a mistake, this was an abuse of power. And if they were willing to do that to a government official, imagine what was happening to black people who had no connections, no way to defend themselves. How many other cases were completely unpunished? Well, this is what systemic racism looked like. It wasn't just about individuals being racist, it was about a system that protected that kind of behavior. And officers could act on their prejudice, harm innocent people, and still keep their jobs. And the worst part is, the victims were expected to just accept it. That's why stories like this matter, because they force us to ask, how much has really changed? And probably at a time like this, people like to say, "Oh, that was a long time ago. Things are different now." But are they really? Think about it. We still see cases of racial profiling, and we still see situations where people of color faces harsher treatment from law enforcement. And we still see officers who abuse their power only to walk away with little to no consequences. So is this just history, or is this still reality? That is the real question. Let's talk in the comments. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you think we have truly moved forward? Or are we still fighting the same battles in different ways? Drop your thoughts below, and if you found this video insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more discussions on important topics. See you in the next video. Bye.